Welcome back. For the next and last part of our session, let us meet with Claude and Julien. Claude and Julien played this morning a serious game for 75 minutes with 40 participants. Claude GARCIA is a forest ecologist, research director at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich, and CEO of a spin-off called LEAF. Julien CHUPIN is a specialist in issues of sustainable supply of agricultural and forest value chains, counseling the exploitation sector in order to take root in its territory. Claude, Julien, you have used today a very innovative method to reflect on processes related to landscape change by playing a serious game. You focused on the quality of participation and on the modalities of participation. What are the results of your exercise?
I'll go first then. So, hi, thanks for the introduction. It was a challenge because normally we devote and invite people to explore these games and their behaviors with more time, but it was actually quite impressive. I think we prepared some slides. I don't know when they will come up in this discussion. Thank you. That's it. So we challenge the participants to play a game which is called Rehab. We're not the ones who developed that, but we've been using it for the last 5 years to help people understand better the impact their own decisions have in the landscape. And if you go to the next slide, please, you will see that what we have is a landscape that responds to the strategic choices of the players. You see these green squares? That's the landscape where people are playing. And the different level of green tells you how much biomass is in the landscape. And you see here how the game board changes based on how people are playing. And you can see the red curve is the level of biomass. And what shows is that people that go and access the landscape to feed themselves, to harvest elements, well, they are depleting the landscape. But that trend is not a tragedy. They are not locked in. It's possible to reverse the trend provided you make decisions differently. And that's the entire lesson that people take from the game. If you go to the next slide, please. Exactly. So what we see, it's not only about what's going on in the landscape, but also the development component, the economical aspect and social component of the system that matters. Based on the decisions people take, they harvest more or less. In this case, the participants were hungry. The green light tells you the level of harvest they had to collect in order to be well fed. And the blue line is what they actually did. So everything below the green line is hunger and poverty. So they were locked in a system that was in a downward trend in terms of resource depletion and increased hunger. It was a lose-lose process. And there was also inequality, which is the second graph you see on the right part, where some groups were very well fed and others were extremely hungry. So see, a typical theory of the tragedy of the commons, resource depletion and hunger. But it's possible to find alternative ways, provided people talk to each other, provided people understand what's going on in the landscape, provided people agree on simple rules on how to manage the system. And that's what effectively the participants just started to get into that at the end of the session.
Thanks. This must have been quite an experience for you and for your participants. Claude, Julien, we spoke a little bit recently, and you told me that you had been using this method to reflect on the problematic of deforestation for 15 years now. What lessons have you drawn from across these years, and how do serious games help get better results? Have you identified keys to success?
Julien?
Yes, thank you for the question. Indeed, what we saw in this game, when participants were saying, if we have simple rules and if we have time to discuss, to explore, to gain information about how the system is functioning from the ecological and social and economical point of view, if we have time to discuss simple rules to allocate resources in a fair manner, if we have time to understand the impact of the decision. And what we are finding is that through the serious game, we can anticipate on the impacts that the decision have today in 1 year, in 2 years, or in 10 or 50 years when we work on cocoa, on palm oil, or over more confidential natural resources. That works for mining, that works for fishery. If we have time to explore, to gain knowledge, to discuss the rules, to understand the impact, then the stakeholders build trust. And this is one of the key that we find throughout all our experiences. We are currently working on a project to integrate biodiversity standards in 16 countries across agricultural, mining sectors and tourism. And this is the key that we are finding, is building the trust of a range of actors who have at the beginning opposite objectives, to learn from each other, to discover how the ecological, the social system is working, and to find out that they have a common challenge, and then they take it on to work together. So that's one of the key lessons that we find in using serious game. It allows to build trust and to anticipate the impact of decisions. But maybe Claude would like to build on it.
Thank you. These are wonderful insights to close the day. Claude, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, there's one thing. See, people don't understand when we talk about games, they expect it's either for kids or it's not serious, or maybe it's a learning tool only. But effectively, a game is a model about strategic decisions. A good strategy game is really about how do you deal with uncertainty, how do you deal with trust, how do you deal with surprises, how do you deal with intelligent opposition. So effectively, games are models that allow to capture the one blind spot in all the land use change models that we have, which is the way people make decisions. And that's why I think it's a very useful and so far underutilized resource to help people, stakeholders in landscapes understand each other better and actually think together to develop better strategies.
Great, indeed. Let us remember, participation is necessary, but not always enough. And it is always worth it to play scenarios in advance. I imagine many other participants will want to join you for future sessions and even expand this research, which certainly will bring very interesting insights on how to improve many landscape programs across the world from many donors. Claude, Julien, we wish you all the best for the continuation of your research, and have an excellent day.
Closing sentence, just to tell people that there is an entire network of participants and practitioners of these methods developed by research centers like CIRAD, INRA, and others. So there is a community of people that know this, and it's called companion modeling. It's worth using it and getting in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we are a little bit in advance, so I think I will move to the closing remarks, for not letting you 1 minute and a half with an endless bumper. So many thanks, Claude, Julien. Many thanks to all the speakers. Actually, dear audience, we are getting to the end of our topic on forest and landscape management. So really a big thank you to all of you for your interest in these great subjects and for your time. Many thanks as well to the EDD team, to the session organizers, to the speakers, and to the technical staff here in TV Studio 5 that could make all these sessions happen. We will now have a 30-minute break for lunch, but please stay with us for afternoon sessions. And I would also like to remind you that for the closing ceremony today at 5:30, we will have for the first time the public presentation of the recommendations from a high-level group of scientists and practitioners on their recommendations for what the EU should do at the nexus between biodiversity, climate, and green growth with all its partners at the initiative and request of our Director General. So we hope to see you, all of you, there. That's it. Bon appétit and have a great afternoon sessions at the EDDs 2021.